Grisly Tales for Gruesome Kids, The Me Monsters by Jamie Ricks. Today's story is called The Ugly Prince. Once upon a time, in the land of Ilwindia, there lived a butt-ugly prince called Spencer. He had a face that looked like it had been put together in a kindergarten art class. His nose gave a fair imitation of a squashed yogurt pot. His eyeballs bulged from their sockets like two empty eggshells. His ears looked like they had been hacked from a sponge. And one was small while the other was huge as a dinner plate. His chin was a breeding ground of warts, with a top lip was spotty, and his forehead jutted out from underneath his hairline like Ayers Rock. He hadn't always been ugly. When he was born, he was beautiful as any newborn baby, but it was soon evident that he had a less than beautiful side to his nature. He threw his first rattle out of the pram when he was given his first rattle, and threw his first tantrum when the nurse picked his rattle up again and gave it back. He wanted everything his own way, and when he didn't get it, his face flushed red like a small electric fire. At 6 weeks old, he had his parents, King Rolf and Queen Betty, twisted round his little finger. When he cried, they rushed forward with expensive offerings to soothe his ruffled feathers. Hand-knitted socks, strawberries and cream, talking teddy bears, monogram dummies, old nannies, young nannies, a bouncy castle, cashmere baby grows, and a 3G mobile phone. But nothing ever calmed him down. Once he had got what he had been screaming for, he just broke it again, and wanted something else. He was a willful child who thought that he was the center of the universe, that every object on earth, every animal, vegetable and mineral, every person and every toy ever invented was his to own by right. What nobody had told him was that the center of the universe was a big black hole. If anything, his parents should have just said no. Then if he carried on demanding stuff, they should have gave him a big black poisonous scorpion and told him it was a bicky peg. Dignitaries from across the world were invited to Prince Spencer's christening, including the King and Queen of neighbouring need a bit of a leg up land and their baby daughter Brittany. The royal households had publicly agreed that when Prince Spencer and Princess Brittany were old enough, they should be married, thus uniting the peoples of their two small countries in wealth and prosperity. As it happened, Spencer and Brittany were rather well matched as royal children. They both lived in palaces, they both ate off silver plates and drank from silver uppy cups. And when they didn't get what they wanted, they both screamed until a nanny lost her head. After the ceremony, Spencer and Brittany's prams were parked next to each other in the throne room, so that they get to know one another, Queen Betty explained coyly to her guests. But when Spencer received 614 presents and Brittany none, she opened her lungs and screamed. This one occasion, she did not get what she wanted, which was everything that Spencer had. Instead, because he was the christening boy, Spencer got his wish, which was for Brittany to be locked up in the dungeon where she couldn't steal his gifts. Not that Spencer wanted them. As each gift was presented to him, in a pattern swiftly emerged, he tore off the wrapping paper, glanced at what was inside, screamed loudly, hurled the gift away, and then held his arms out for the next present. Tore off the wrapping paper, glanced at what was inside, screamed loudly, hurled the gift away. And so it went on, until Spencer's fairy godmother, a 200-year-old white witch known as La 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 La, she did a bit of opera singing in her spare time, stepped forward with her gift. "This gift is very special," she said, fluttering her wings with excitement. "Guard it with your life." For the first time that afternoon, Spencer stopped screaming and looked at the parcel on his lap. "Ah, the power of Providence. Already it flows through you," she smiled, stroking the baby's brow, which for once was not scrouched in a frown. "For 500 years, young Spencer, this gift has been passed down from generation to generation. It is known as the Chalice of Candor, for he who owns it shall always know the truth. And to know the truth is to know which path to take in life. Let it guide you, fairy godson mine. Listen to its advice when you are faced with a difficult decision, and one day this chalice will make you the most powerful and prosperous man in the world." Her speech received warm applause from King Rolf and Queen Betty, who realised that it was a generous gift she had just given to their child, wisdom and success. But Spencer thought it was boring and hurled the chalice out of his pram, whereupon it hit a stone unicorn and smashed into 100 pieces. The horrified audience fell silent as the large ruby at the centre of the chalice's design clattered to the floor and split in half. The only noise in the throne room came from Prince Spencer as he screamed for his next present. La 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 leaned over the royal cot and exhaled a lungful of stale air. "What have you done?" she hissed. "That chalice was priceless." Spencer grabbed onto one of her wings, levered himself out of the cot until his face was touching hers, then deliberately increased the volume of his scream to show that he didn't care. "Say sorry," she cried. Say sorry, Spencer, and I will forgive you." But in answer to her plea, he tugged down sharply on her wings. His fairy godmother gasped as the bone snapped. "Then I curse you," she howled, "from now until the day you say sorry. For every act of selfishness you inflict on others, for every tantrum you throw, for every toy and that you break, you will become uglier." And with that she was gone, flittering through a time portal to find herself a fairy god doctor to set her wing in plaster. And that is why Prince Spencer was but ugly. As he grew older, his selfishness did not abate. With every toy that shattered on the nursery floor, with every kick he planted on his nanny's bottom, With every scream he unleashed in the king and queen's faces, he became just a little bit uglier. A wart for smashing the ambassador's platinum paperweight, a bent nose for stamping his feet at the wet weather, a scar for rubbing his caviar into the Duchess's hair, a spot for slashing Van Gogh's sunflowers, and a lump for kicking a lady in waiting's lapdog over the roof of the indoor swimming pool. 13 years after La 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 had placed her curse on Prince Spencer's head, his monstrous features were just as about cooked. He was so ugly that he had to wear a paper bag in public so as not to frighten babies or turn water fountains to stone. At home, the royal dogs refused to wag their tails in front of him, and at school he was banned from the football team unless he played in goal. The opposition forward only had to take one look at his face, and they would run away and hide. Yet, through all of this, Prince Spencer remained cheerful, because he knew when he was old enough, he would marry the most beautiful girl in the world, Princess Brittany. Or so he thought. Princess Brittany had indeed grown up to be beautiful. On the outside, that is. On the inside, she was as twisted as a hangman's noose. Like Spencer, she thought nothing of sneering at people who did not have her advantages or station in life. And if non-royals ever approached her for a chat, she sprayed them with insecticide to keep them at bay. To celebrate her 13th birthday, she had demanded a masked ball. Every prince in Ilwindia and Need a Bit of a Leg Up land was invited, including Prince Spencer, who turned up expecting to be feted as Brittany's boyfriend. He was stopped at the door by the bouncers and told him to remove the paper bag from his head. "No," he said haughtily, "it's my mask. Besides, I'm marrying the birthday girl, so unless you don't want to have your head on your neck when you brush your teeth tonight, you'd better let me in." The paper bag stayed put until he met up with Brittany and her princess friends, who were dancing around their diamond tiaras that they piled up in the middle of the dance floor. "Who are you?" said Brittany rudely. "That's a greengrocer's bag you've got on your head. Are you some kind of talking fruit?" "I am not a talking fruit," said Spencer. "Are you a vegetable then?" she snorted. "Because you don't look too clever." Her friends laughed like overbred chipmunks. "I am neither," said Spencer. "I am your future husband." When this remark was greeted by more giggling, he thought it was time to reveal his identity. There was an audible gasp on the dance floor when his face came out of the bag. The shocked DJ ripped the needle across the vinyl, and the music came to a sudden and violent halt. In the silence that followed, Princess Brittany screamed, then said in a voice that reeked with contempt, "I can't marry you! You're horrible! I'd rather marry the back end of a baboon! Replace your bag immediately!" "But it's been arranged," protested Spencer. "Then I shall unarrange it," she screeched. "If I was to marry a freak like you, I'd be dead. Even then I'd want at least 6 doctors to sign my death certificate, so there weren't any doubts, like one of the doctors missing the fact that 1/16 of my eye was still alive, so that I could see you." She grabbed the handbag off Princess Natalie's shoulder, clicked it open, and filled the pockets with sick. Prince Spencer was lost for words. For the first time in his life, he couldn't have what he wanted. "But you can't say that," he stammered. "The only thing that's kept me through this ugly curse is the thought of that one day the most beautiful girl in the world will be my wife." "And there's the problem," sneered Princess Brittany. "I look like a rose, whereas you look like the stuff they put around a rose's roots." "Horse manure," hooted Princess Yasmin. "Gigi Guano." Look, you don't have to make up your mind now," said Spencer. "But I already have," she whispered angrily. "How shall I put this to you to get the message? In my garden there is a broken bucket. All it wants is a bit of love and attention. But even that bucket couldn't love you. And it doesn't have eyes or feelings like I do. So unless you want to be used for a game of pin the tail on the piggy, put your face away and trot along back to your sty." Prince Spencer retreated from the masked ball with jeers of derision ringing in his ears. It was the most humiliating night of his life, and he did not know how he would ever face another human being again. He had the mirrors removed from his bedroom and locked himself away for the next 5 years, with only his black thoughts for company. He thought about nothing else but exacting his revenge on Brittany. When pictures of her appeared in newspapers, he cut them out and stuck them to his bedroom walls. After a year, they turned yellow. After 3, they began to fade. But Prince Spencer's memory never faded. His embarrassment was as vivid. 5 years later, it had been on the night of the masked ball. "You're not starting to feel sorry for him, are you?" "Don't! He brought it all on himself by breaking the chalice of candor and chucking his toys out of the pram." Then, one day, just after Princess Brittany had turned 18, Prince Spencer saw an announcement on the back of the Practical Princess Monthly. Next to a picture of Princess Brittany, it said, "Festival of Frogs, this coming Sunday at Havelock Castle, the home of the King and Queen of Need a Bit of a Leg Up Land. Princess Brittany will kiss all the frogs in the garden and will marry the first one that turns into a man." In the interview that followed, Princess Brittany explained, "Everyone knows where the most handsome princes come from. I mean, have you ever seen a princess kiss a frog and it's not been a gorgeous, handsome hunk of a prince?" "Exactly. So the idea behind my festival of frogs is to gather loads of frogs in my garden so that I can kiss them all. Then the first one that turns into a prince will be my husband. I shall marry him. It's as simple as that." The interviewer then asked Princess Brittany if she was not promised to Prince Spencer of Ilwindia, according to a contract drawn up between their own 2 countries 18 years before. "So what if I was?" the princess was quoted as saying. "I'm not marrying him. He's ugly." The pain was still raw for Prince Spencer. His eyes smarted with tears as he read the cruel parting shot. But they were tears of joy. At last, he had a plan to exact his revenge. First, he paid a visit to La 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 La, whom he hadn't seen since his christening. She was living in a magic wood, in a tree house made entirely out of morning dew. "Who are you?" she barked, rubbing her milky eyes. "You won't remember me," he said. "I am your fairy godson, Prince Spencer." "I'm your fairy godson." Prince Spencer," she hissed like a rattlesnake. Have you come to say sorry? For what? He said. For breaking the blessed chalice of candor. I don't do sorry, said Spencer rudely. I'm a prince. An apology would be an admission that he was wrong. Yeah, an apology would be an admission that he was wrong. And he was never wrong. I see the ugly curse worked then, cackled his godmother, as she slipped on a pair of bottle-thick spectacles. Yes, he said coldly. Would you like me to undo it? No, he said. No, squealed the old lady. But you're ugly. You're just as ugly as a bag of frogs. Oh, funny you should say that, said Prince Spencer. But that's exactly what I have come to you about. The old lady was confused. I want to be ugly, he explained. If you reverse your curse and make me beautiful again, my revenge won't work. Then he went on to outline his plan. I need a magic potion to turn me into a frog. Why? Why would any man need that? She asked. To trick a girl I used to love, he said bitterly. When she kisses me as a frog and I turn back into a man, she will have to marry me. She's already promised, but when she sees it's me with my ugly face, she'll be miserable for the rest of her life. There it was. Prince Spencer's evil plan. Unfortunately, being a fairy godmother is a job that comes with a lifetime of responsibilities. Despite loathing her godson, La 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 had no choice but to give him the potion. Take 2 spoonfuls 24 hours before the kiss, she said. Now go away. It took him 3 days to find his way out of the magic wood, by which time it was already Saturday. He didn't have time to go home, so he took the potion where he stood. In the flash of a lizard's eye, he shrank to the size of a small green donut and hopped off down the road, following the road signs so helpfully erected by the Automobile Association to the Festival of Frogs. There was no way of knowing how many princes were in the garden, but there were certainly a lot of frogs. When Prince Spencer hopped through a hole in the fence, he was impressed at the trouble to which Princess Brittany had gone to make the day special. Chefs were handing out mayflies and aphid canapes. Waiters were uncorking bottles of chilled pond water. Gardeners were trimming the grass with polished lawnmowers to give the frogs the best view of the princess. And a footman in a wig and white gloves was holding a soft purple cushion onto which each frog was hopping to be kissed. As Prince Spencer bounced across the lawn towards the princess, he only had one thought in his mind. The look on her face when she realized that she had been tricked. She would never forgive him. She'd live in abject misery for the rest of her life. And he didn't care. Revenge was all that mattered. Getting what he wanted. That look would be enough. He caught her eye as he jumped through the grass. She was wiping her lips after another slimy kiss and pulling a face that barely disguised her disgust. She smiled to herself and plunged on, but as he did so, a wind blew up suddenly behind him, accompanied by the sound that reminded him of a clash of thunder of Turkish scimitars. By the time he glanced over his shoulder, the lawnmower was already upon him. He tried to hop out of its way, but he could only hop into the flashing blades, which slit him and sliced him and plopped him out of the other end. "What have you done?" screamed Princess Brittany. You've chopped one of the frogs in half! Sorry, ma'am, cowered the gardener. Didn't see it there. What if this was the one? She screamed, slapping the back of the old man's head. What if that was the man I was going to marry? Sorry, he muttered. Won't happen again. No, it won't, she cried. Pick it up! She grabbed the gardener by his ear and marched him into the kitchen with the two sticky halves of the frog in his hand. Then, to teach the old fool a lesson, she made him put both halves of the frog in the blender, whisk them up, and made him drink it. Every last drop, she bellowed, as the gardener gagged. Don't you dare ever leave a speck of that spawn. And that was the end of Prince Spencer, which rather neatly proves that you can't have everything you want, even if you are an heir to the throne. I keep Prince Spencer's memory alive by holding an official brown paper bag day in the darkness. At the start of the day, I make all my guests ugly by feeding them lemons till their faces pucker up. Then I choose the ugliest child, and he or she has to keep their face exactly like that for the rest of their life. And if they don't, it's into the incinerator they go. That's what happened to Brenda, actually. Unlike Prince Spencer, Princess Brittany learnt nothing. In the misguided belief that the princesses always get what they want, she carried on staging the Festival of Frogs every year. For 66 years. And in all that time, she kissed 1,000,001 frogs, but never found a husband. Ironically, the only proposal of marriage that she was ever to receive, in the whole of her life, was that of Prince Spencer's at the masked ball. Maybe her miserable life would have been just that little bit happier had she accepted. Still, who cares? They were both ugly, and both got exactly what they deserved. I tell her that every day. Oh yes, Brittany's a guest here too. The oldest baby in the world. When she first came in, on her 84th birthday, I put her in the aging suite. She didn't complain once. The beauty of the aging suite is that the microclimate keeps her vital organs alive while her body gets older and wrinklier. And you know what that means. Now that she's 230, she looks just like a frog. As the great French poet Simone de Citron de Carwax once wrote, when a princess doth share her looks with a warty, wet grenouille, 'tis mighty hard to find a prince who'll say, will you marry me? How tragically true. They all came to me in the end, from big-eyed frogs to big-headed footballers. The end.